Do you ever feel like the cloud is just hanging over your head? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today and give you some resources and tools that you could use to help move the cloud away. I'm here today with Kendall Contini, author of Mom's Cloud and the Beach Adventure. Kendall, please tell everyone about this book.
So this book is about a beach day, a quiet cloud, and a family's love that shines through. It is a book that I had spent the early years of my daughter's life searching for. I wanted a way to explain my struggles with mental health depression to her, but through a fun picture book because there are children's books for almost everything out there to talk about emotions and family and friendship and manners. But I couldn't find anything that really got to a parent's perspective on mental health aspects. There were emotions, a lot on sadness, but it was all cause and effect. I dropped my ice cream, I'm crying, I'm sad. Nothing showed what it was like to struggle with something bigger and still feel safe and connected. And so I wrote it based on a bedtime story I had started telling my daughter about. And so the book follows a beach day where the family is really excited to go. And when they get there, a cloud shows up, and the cloud is mom's depression. And the family knows what the cloud is, but mom is the one who really sees and experiences it. And so throughout the day, they engage her in their activities in the way that they are supportive of mom and show that just being together is what matters. You don't have to just be happy or fix yourself. You just have your team with you.
I love it. And I love how supportive dad is in this book. It really puts dad in the forefront and how he's a resource for mom when she's got
Mhm.
this cloud. Is this really your husband?
Yeah. So a lot of people have asked, and I get emotional every time because I have struggled with depression throughout my entire life. And it was something where I honestly didn't think kids were in my future because when you have a cloud, you can't see beyond it. And so throughout our time, in our early marriage and fostering kids, my husband had shown me the rays of light that come through the cloud that I have provided to others and really gave me the support to have a family of our own. And so a lot of the lines in there are just direct things that he has told me throughout our life, like that it's a part of you and it's not all of you. So I am happy that that comes across to people because without that, I wouldn't have been able to kind of have this loving family and then my kids kind of mimic dad. And so it's just an empathetic unit that I'm very proud of in my life.
So, and this book isn't just for moms to read to the kids. This is a book for the whole family to read if there is that cloud in your family anywhere. Grandma might be the one with the cloud. Read this book so you can understand what grandma's going through.
Yes, and I wrote it because it is my family and that was what was easy to put on the page, but what my message is intended to be is the world experience outside of your own. So my hope is that the cloud becomes part of that everyday conversation. Since I started sharing my journey of the book, I have been able to text friends and families and just say, "Hey, I'm having a cloudy day, I can't hang out," instead of having to make an excuse. And with that, my daughter has actually been able to personify her own feelings. She calls it a tornado, but it's sort of teaching that you can struggle with something and you can identify it in a way that is easy to say to someone. And weather patterns is a great kind of analogy there. And so this is about a family, but it's really just about there are experiences outside of your own. Someone can be smiling and going through something a lot heavier and you can't see their cloud. And so I'm hoping it's just the language that comes through.
What I love about it is when you put a name on something, it makes it less of a stigma. And using the weather everybody in the whole wide world experiences weather. They might not understand if you talked about snow and they lived in the South, or they might not understand the bitter cold if they've never experienced it. But everybody has seen a cloud and understands that it covers the sun, it blocks the light. How did you start using this term? I mean, what made you start? Was it your husband or was it something that just popped into your head?
It's therapy. So if anyone's ever struggling, go to therapy. It actually started as a wave, and my therapist talked about it as a wave pulling me under. So you can be standing in the water and feel the undertow pulling, and you can't identify it, but it's there. And so when I started to describe it to my children, waves don't move, but the cloud can go anywhere. So it was saying, I can be here where I always am and it shows up. And then I do have on my blog, I kind of wrote a blog about the types of clouds. And so when I really started to research for this book, the different types of clouds, because I'm not a scientific person, but it was fascinating because it really did hit. Clouds can be outside in the sunshine and they can be happy things that you see as shapes and animals, but they're still there. And then they can come when storms come. And so I thought that was perfect for how depression is because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that it's here in the sunshine and it doesn't make sense that it's here in a stormy day. And so the cloud was a very easy identification for me that just kind of was like, yes, that's it.
I think that this is a pivotal experience for children because they experience their mother's moods so strongly. Because I remember my mom would cry like that. And I internalized it as, oh, I'm not good enough. Mom cried. I couldn't make her happy. And who knows, she might have had a little bit of depression, or that just might be who she is. If I understood that it wasn't me, that it was
Mhm.
her, it would have changed my whole childhood because that is what turned me into a people pleaser. So,
Yeah.
how has reading this book with your children, identifying your moods as a cloud and making them understand it, how has that affected your children?
So I had depression and then I had kids. So postpartum depression, I knew it was coming. And it was everything I was scared of it being. And it was very hard when I had my second, because my daughter was aware of seeing me do everything, to have him cry and then just cry because I couldn't figure out, I cared so much. And then you just keep crying. And I couldn't identify that. And so actually that's where it started. And I got my little cloud pillow and I would be crying. And when she would think she did something wrong, I would just hold it and I would say, it's not you, it's this. And so that is kind of where her resonating with it was. So if I was having a really hard day or we were going somewhere, it was something I can just put out and say, it's this, it's not you. Like mom needs her space. I had said, she identified her waking up and kind of having some night terrors as her tornado. And then she's been able to go further with that. And when my daughter's having a bad day, she told me, I don't have a cloud. Nice Alma's lost in the woods. And can you help me find her? And so it's been this way of saying it's not you, it's something in me that has really helped me grow her language and and support her in kind of there are those parenting frustrations like when she says nice Alma's gone, I'm like, please bring her back, like mom needs a minute, like go get her. But it's that second to understand, like, okay, she said she's lost in the woods, I can't ground her, I can't be upset for what's going on right now, she is having her own emotional moment. And so she's been able to do that for me when I hold up the cloud, and we've been able to learn what her personified characters are.
That is intriguing because I just did a video yesterday about how meditation can help a child self-regulate. And the way I presented it is the mom's in the grocery store, the kid starts throwing a tantrum, and nothing mom does can make the child stop screaming, and all she wants to do is get home and put the kid down for a nap. And the reason I did that is because my book, Sparkle Feathers and Princess Francie, the Magic Library, is an introduction to meditation.
Mhm.
But here's a whole different toolbox on how to deal with these strong emotions with kids. And that's what I love about the children's book arena. And I'm learning that so much. We have a group of children's book authors that meet every Friday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we talk about ways to have a bigger impact with our books. And that is what this conversation today is bringing to my mind, is that both of our books will help parents in the same area of life in different ways. And just like you open your toolbox to work on your car, that metric wrench will not work on an American sized bolt. Well, the meditation might be more advanced for your child, but holding up a cloud pillow might be the language that they can understand. Now, I can't remember exactly. It's been a couple of weeks since I read your book. Your husband just had some really colorful language to help the kids understand.
Mhm.
Can you, off the top of your head, come up with any other ideas for parents on how to describe these emotions to the kids?
I know, I know in the book it was a lot of puns because that's what we do. And I did ask him, I would like write down three different puns and I'd be like, what one would you say? Um, One big piece too is I know and your book and then some of the other authors I did meet on Friday, we are talking about very heavy topics, but with a whimsy. And so one thing why I decided to go kind of this self-published route is because when I was talking with traditional publishing, the market right now is very, we just want happy people doing happy things. And I was like, I get that, but that also isn't the world right now. And my daughter is 4 going on with the language of like a 13-year-old. It drives me crazy and amazes me at the same time. But it's because I don't talk to her down. And so we talk about what's going on with everyone. And my husband does say, Mom needs a moment and it's okay to not be okay. And we don't just say stop or cheer up. We explain we need to do something different because this is what's happening. And so by putting that language in there with not hiding the reality from your kids, but just finding a fun way to say it. So when I'm writing the book, I wrote it with the intention of being a read out loud book that says, like, dad nudges mom and says, like, it's okay, take your time, and not just kind of hiding the kids away from that reality. And so, what he has been able to say to me and be supportive for me in front of them has helped them pick up that language. So then in the book, like Max checks on mom too because he sees dad check on mom. So dad says, what do you need us to do? And Max comes up with an idea and says, should we wave it away with the shovel? And so it's kind of model for your kids and just use kid appropriate language, but don't hide the message.
That's interesting. Kid appropriate language and the cloud. And
Mhm.
wave it away with a shovel. That that is just a real little boy way of saying it. I love that. We talked about your big overarching mission, and it's not a mission of just selling books. Would you like to talk about your bigger worldview on why you wrote this book and about your blog and your other resources?
Yeah, I mean, every author wants to think they're going to be up there on the bestseller list. I'm realistic that when you are a big time bestseller, that would take away from, being with my family right now. Um, I wrote the book because I couldn't find it, and I don't want that to still be the reality in the world. And so I want a mom who is struggling, or a friend of a family who needs it, a friend of a friend, to kind of have the ability to search and say, here's someone struggling with mental health. How do you talk to kids about it? And then have my book pop up. And whether they buy the book or whether they get it at the library, I want it to be redirected to the most important part that I see is I wrote the words and they are great and I love my story, but the back of the book, I've secured some really good resources that have helped me have sunnier days. And so I have some therapy group links that are going to be in the back of the book. I'm working with a local merriment maker where she has 30-day challenges and how to find joy and be okay with being yourself and just, you matter. And so I want it to not only be a book, but really be a resource out there where my Instagram, I am posting some of the merriment challenges, and I am putting out there just honest blog posts about the struggles and what we go through, because I don't think we should go through it quietly, and I don't think we should go through it alone. Parenting, it takes a village. And I think we should grow a village of people who are okay saying, I'm not okay, but that's okay.
I love that because covering it up, well, it puts a big old cover on the stigma of
Mhm.
it, but it doesn't remove the stigma by covering it up. The only way
Exactly.
to remove that stigma is to take that cover off and talk about it. My mission is to raise strong and confident kids today so we don't have to fix broken adults tomorrow. I bet when you were a teenager, you were told to cheer up, snap out of it. Life's good. Why don't you see it that way?
Mhm.
And I'm sure that had, well, I know you just told us it had lasting effects. You didn't think you could be a mother. Well, raising kids with the idea that having a cloudy day is okay and asking, please give me space. If we could give kids those tools to say, I just need a little space, leave me alone, that they will snap out of it, for
Mhm.
a lack of a better term, but they will feel their emotions, process their emotions, and move on, as opposed to the kid I was talking about earlier who had the meltdown in the grocery store because mom was just trying to pacify him rather than figure out
Mhm.
what the root cause was. And I like that you are allowing your daughter to tell you her language on how she wants to convey these messages to you. Now,
Mhm.
the question is, does your son have his own language?
Well, right now he's two, so he's in his no phase. So he's just pretty direct with no. Even when it's yes. So he's not there yet, but we are working on it. Um, but I know you, and it was when we had first connected and I read your story, you had a great kind of piece in your bio about realizing a lot of the struggles you were experiencing now was from the past kind of cycle of everything and what we were told. And thinking about that as you were just speaking it, it made me think of there's Brene Brown's video, sympathy versus empathy. And when people look at a cloud, they always want to see the silver lining of it. And so they do tell you, like, oh, yes, you're struggling with your kids, but at least you can have them. And, but isn't there joy enough? And I'm like, yes, but I also want to process my emotions. So right now, I just want my cloud to be a cloud. I just want it to be here. I want to acknowledge it. And I don't need to see the silver lining of it because I know that's there. But storms happen and we have days where we don't go outside because it's raining and storming. And I think it's that kind of reality. Like, I just need time, just like we take time when normal storm clouds come. And then the next day we get to go jump in puddles. So when we rest and we process, we can have a better time after because we gave ourselves that safe space.
Yes.
Mm.
And when I was in the military, we weren't given that opportunity because everything we did was life or death. We didn't have time to let our emotions boil up. And I learned how to stuff them
Yeah.
down. And then when it came time to retire and I was in my 50s, moving on to 60, it's like all of these emotions that I stuffed down for years and from childhood started bubbling up into illness. So taking time out for ourselves, but more importantly, teaching kids that it's okay to take time out for them. I
Mm-hmm.
have seen so many parents talk about how busy they are taking their kid from one lesson to another to the tutor and school and extracurricular activities. And you look at the kid and they're just wiped out all the time. All they want to do is just go outside and play and be a kid or take a break,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And that's what we need to teach parents too, that it's a productivity right now is very valued. And so you have to think that you have to produce. And moms and dads think that they have to be like cheery and on it all the time. And we need to step back and give the kids time to like take their own time for their imagination and their creativity. And we don't need to entertain them all the time. And so part of the cloud conversation also came from when I was building my own mom group for my kids to have play friends, was the ones who really stuck around are the ones who understood, like, I can't be on all the time. Mental health doesn't allow that. I love them all of the time, but I also need to have this part of myself. And so if it is holding up a cloud and saying, I just need a minute, or even if it's just having an okay day and saying, I still need a minute, it's not a bad day, I just need that time. It's that generation we want to work on and have that conversation together.
The self-care, the
Mm-hmm.
taking care of yourself. um, my generation, it was what can you do for everybody else? And then you came last. And I see now we're moving toward take care of yourself and then give the rest of the world what spills over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is such a healthier way of doing it. If you didn't put up your cloud and say, I need a moment, by the end of the day, you would be lashing out at your kids, being frustrated, and that isn't a way to live either. It is so much healthier to take that minute and teach them that it's okay for them to have that unstructured time to be creative. I remember when I was a kid, we had this playroom and I occupied myself for hours with 3 pieces of construction paper and a bottle of Elmer's glue. And I didn't need any of the, well, we didn't have those fancy games back then. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
invented yet, but I found this stuff in our playroom and I played with it for hours because I was left to my own devices. And who knows, my mom may have been having a cloudy day that day.
Well, you said the therapy, fun word, when people pleasing, and it was a really big therapeutic journey for myself because people pleasing versus just I thought it was a really friendly person. It's like, are you friendly or are you like nervous energy, people pleasing everything? And so trying to take a step back with like mental health and self-care from that and say, okay, what do I need right now? I know I'll probably still be helpful and bubbly and smiley and extroverted, but what do I need right now? And that is very hard when you shift into parenting mode and how to balance that. And the journey of being able to say like I need a moment for me, and then again that's where my husband comes in to be that kind of rock and support there.
Well, yeah, I guess you can't leave a 2-year-old to their own device.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to wait a couple more years for that. Yeah, talking about people pleasing and thinking, well, I just got to get this done. If I just stay at my desk for another hour, I could get it done. Or if I just play with the kids for another hour, then they'll love me more. Or if I get to the grocery store and get all the grocery shopping done, then we could come home and relax. What if you relax when you feel like you need to relax and then go to the grocery store when you're calm and when you're feeling good? And then, well, maybe you won't have that little meltdown while you're going through the grocery store. And I've seen parents melt down right along with the kids. Had they taken that 30-minute, 40-minute mental health break first rather than just trying to get it all done.
And I'm big on threads now. I got into Instagram threads, but I think it's fantastic because there are a lot of supportive mom threads out there that say, we're kind of trained to think we have to be the 24/7 mom. But think about what you look like for 24/7 versus what refreshing person you look like when you're 27. And so the version of yourself that thinks you can't walk away for 10 minutes and, screen time, book time, however you use it to just say, okay, you do this for yourself for the kids and they get their 10 minutes and you walk away and come back. It is hard to do as a parent, but the version of you that walks away and comes back is very different than the version of you that stays in it the entire time. And you need to just experience it. Like just walk out and come back. And that little deep breath or meditation moment that you take for yourself to just recenter is going to be the better version than staying in the chaotic mind of it.
I was never a parent, but sometimes I consider I was a parent in a way because when I was in the military, I worked with a bunch of young boys. I was a squad leader in Iraq and I had 6 young men who were my team. And 6 young men all had their own problems, whether it's they weren't getting paid right and they couldn't pay their bills, or one hadn't talked to mom in a long time and he just really needed to go to the phone center and talk to his mom, or occasionally there was a little argument between two of the men. And sometimes I had to take a step back and say, you guys just need to chill. I'd go take a walk or just go off on my own and then come back with a fresh mind and able to ask the right questions to figure out what was really going on to solve the problem. So I imagine, these were teens to early 20s year old boys. But I imagine with children, it's kind of the same way. You can't just go in and start disciplining as a mom. You have to figure out what the problem is. Like your daughter said, she's lost in the woods. And I love that you said, well, I can't give her a timeout because there's something else going on. So, do you have any other suggestions for parents since I've only dealt with young adults?
I Something I learned in the like new Montessori parenting is kind of changing the mood of the situation. We are very lucky. We have a circle house. And so when I feel my daughter and I bubbling up, I tell her, let's take a walk and we'll do a circle. But I try and change how she's feeling. So if she's really grumpy, I tell her, like, you're grumpy Alma right now. Do a circle and come back as like dog Alma. And she gets so mad. She's like, I don't want to. And I was like, fine, I will. And I do a circle and I come back and I like act like a dog. And just that minute to like shift a kid from where they are to where they're going to be helps. And so that's something we use a lot. And if we're out, I'll tell her, like, do a lap around that tree and come back when you're not yelling. But we kind of say different characters and things to give her something else to focus on. And so I've learned that like at bedtime, there's the candle trick. So when she's huffing and puffing, I say, fine, huff and puff and blow the candles out. Well, you start doing that and then you put a candle back up, like a trick candle, and it shifts them to like play mode instead of the current stress mode. And there are like Montessori tips like that where you just research like shifting the mood with humor or telling them a joke. Sometimes she'll be screaming, and instead of screaming back, I will scream back, but I'll scream back, and I love you. And it like takes her a second to hear that I didn't tell her to sit down or go to her room. I was like yelling positive things. So it also teaches her that you can yell all you want, but we can also yell fun things. We don't have to just like angry yell. And so it's that mindset to try and know that they don't have the full capacity for like their emotion and explaining it with words, but you do. And what else would you rather be doing at that time? Would you rather be fighting with her and kind of win because you're never going to win with a toddler? Or would you just rather shift into joking and games? So then just do it. And sometimes like it's fun in that sense. And I am proud of myself because sometimes I will catch myself and I'll yell at her. I'll be like, Arma. And I know I'm about to lose it. And she'll go, what? And I was like, I love you. That's not what I started yelling, but you had to like take that second to be like, quick change. And it took kind of moments because we're not perfect. But that kind of, you can lose yourself really quickly, and if it all fails and you lose it, just please turn around and apologize and have the conversation with your kid, because I've done that too. Like I've lost it on her and I've turned around and said, wow, that was not normal mommy. That was angry mommy, right? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, I don't like angry mommy, but you did this and it scared me. You weren't supposed to stand on that. And I had to yell. And I was like, what can we do so I don't have to do that? And they need to see you apologize so they don't start getting that perception that they have to be perfect either, and it doesn't put that kind of cycle that we had, like be a different version of yourself. No, just have your flaws, let's just talk it out.
What I liked, I really liked one thing you said there. You asked a question, what can we do about it?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just say, this is what we're going to do to fix it. You said, what can we do? Making it more of a team effort.
Mm-hmm. And I think that comes with a lot of Montessori stuff. So I'm not taking credit, but like the no saying no to your child or no saying stop it, they don't always understand why we're doing that. And that was where the cloud came from. She doesn't understand why I'm crying. I can't stop doing it, but I just need to talk it through with her. So instead of saying, no, don't climb on that, we tell her, like, you can climb, but it's going to be dangerous. And if you fall, you might get hurt. So what can we do differently? And so that's kind of where I see the cloud in the series I'm working on is putting the cloud in normal everyday locations and just saying, how can we work through this together? And with the cloud, I hope to have the cloud in different locations. And I have a really fantastic illustrator who I want to keep working with. So we talked about doing other emotions, which is like anxiety and if almost tornado makes an appearance. And so it's just saying, let's just keep having the conversation because we're not going to get rid of emotions. We're not going to, fix ourselves. We don't need to fix ourselves from therapy. We just need to learn how to process ourselves.
Right, because all emotions it's our body's way of telling us that something's off balance.
Mm-hmm.
We need our emotions to tell us. It's a survival mechanism. If you didn't have that fear back, in caveman days, you can just go and try to pet the nice kitty and have a saber-toothed tiger eat you up. That fear is a really good survival emotion, but it's when we attach that fear to things that aren't life threatening. And that's where I like what you said. Standing on that chair is dangerous and you could hurt yourself. What can we do about that? Or, well, that's not dangerous. So take a lap around the tree and let's find a calmer way of doing this rather than saying, no, you're wrong for what you're doing. And say you're wrong, let's talk about it for the things that are going to hurt them.
What you said is beautiful because it's actually what has been a very interesting experience when I put my book pre-orders out. Like my close family and friends have known I dealt with depression, but when I put it out there, a lot of people were like, I had no idea you were dealing with that because it doesn't look the same to everyone. My depression is not that I'm staying inside under the blanket, sad. It is an extroverted. I get very anxious and nervous with myself. I overplan, I overextend myself. I'm a people pleaser. I will go places and I'll just experience them differently. And so it's been able to teach um, my mental health has been that fear instinct teaching me not to pet the kitty. So it has made me a planner. It's made me a people person. It's made me extroverted because that was me masking stuff. And I don't want to say that it is overly a negative thing. It is not all of me. It is something that made me who I am. And through years of therapy, I've learned to like live with that. And there was one great piece, and again, it came from Cloud. So I'm always like excited when the author Matt Haig wrote, like, you are not the rain, you experience the rain. And so that was the piece of like, you aren't the fear, you're experiencing it. And what are you getting out of it and learning from it? You're learning not to go pet the cat. You're learning to alter your life in this way and have these conversations with your children and make your family unit look like this. And so I think that is my push with like, please talk about mental health because we don't want to think that it's this overly negative thing because look what can come from it can be the like sunny day after the cloud.
Right. I think that's the key right there is talking about mental health rather than mental unhealth,
Mm-hmm.
the mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And if we concentrate more on the mental health as a preventative medicine, then we won't need to fix the problem as much in the future because we will have prevented it.
And you said it with the car analogy before. Like, we don't I go to my therapist more than I go to my doctor to check on my body because I do put my mental health before my like physical health most of the time. But it's kind of making that regular for everyone. You cannot get some people to go to therapy. You can't get them to have the conversation about it. But if I was talking cars and I said your car's having a bad day, something's going on with your car, they would go check it immediately. But people
Right.
don't do that for themselves. And that was the piece of why I think the book should exist because it doesn't, because we don't want to say to people we're struggling with stuff, but we can say we're struggling with stuff. And at the end of the book, the spoiler alert is they all enjoy the beach.
Right.
So it didn't ruin the beach. We didn't have to go home because mom had a cloud. It didn't mean mom didn't want to be there. It didn't mean mom's going to sit in the car the whole time. It just said mom's going to come and it's going to be different for her than it is for you. And that's okay.
I think that is a perfect way to end.